Good morning, Gateway Rotary.
Come on, that's a little kind of.
Good morning, Gateway Rotary. All right. Well, welcome. So my name is Tom Carroll, and I used to be a president here.
Yay!
Yay! People applauded when my term was over too. So thank you very much. I do want to mention that when I came in this morning, you know, really was kind of half awake like most of you are right now. And I walked into the back and to use the restroom, and there's a sign on there and it says, you know, beware. Wow, Eric Rowe's been in here ahead of me. Yeah. It's like, no, it's Halloween. So hey, nice to see you, Eric Rowe.
You were just following the sign that said, "Don't eat the big white mint."
Once again, Eric Rowe could take something kind of funny and just push it right over the edge. There you go. Eric Rowe, put your hands together for Eric Rowe, please. All right, well, we're going to start off with leading our flag salute, and so, Ms. Janine, will you do that for us, please?
Thank you so much. Good morning, fellow Rotarians and guests. Please join me in the salute to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Probably the best pledge I've ever heard. Thank you, Janine. Yeah, there was no pausing, except for the little, you know, just that one moment. But other than that, I give her like, what, a 98 probably on that. Okay, four-way test. Dave Dusek.
Fellow Rotarians, please join me in reciting the things that we think, say, or do. First,
is it true?
Second,
is it fair to all concerned?
C,
will it build goodwill and better friendships?
and fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
don't forget that.
Is it fun?
Well, it better be.
Yeah.
All right, please take your seats. So, we've got some visiting Rotarians and guests, and then we're going to go to an announcement. But first, Amanda's going to introduce them.
Visiting Rotarians, we have Casey. Is that right? Is it Kate? I can't read your handwriting.
Corey.
No? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Rebecca. Say Rebecca. That is Rebecca. See, this is what happens when you paper when you get here. Is that Corey? Is that right? Corey's over here. Good. Point yourself out, and you have the infamous Bill Greger.
Yay.
And then a guest of Rebecca, now I'm getting square, and it's Mackenzie. And they are, she's Rotarian with Twin City, and she's Lewis County Transit.
All right.
I couldn't have done a worse job. Just really couldn't have done a worse job.
Well, outstanding job. Thank you, Amanda. So, actually, next I'd like to ask Corey to come up here and maybe make an announcement about, Corey's from the Olympia Rotary Club, and he's going to share some information about cool jazz and clean water. I'm talking slowly.
I wasn't prepared.
Walks up here, and here's Corey.
Yay, Corey! Give him a hand. Literally, he needs a hand right now.
Yeah. All right. So I'm here. I'm the chair of the multi-club group called Cool Jazz Clean Water. We have representation from almost every club, and we represent the Rotary clubs at Thurston County. This event we put on every year. This year it's November 16th, and we raise funds. The event is all day long at the Washington Center. Kids come in. We have 16 schools coming to participate. They're adjudicated by professional jazz musicians to see how they do. It's their opportunity leading into the band season for competition. This is really one of the first big venues they have. The kids and the band teachers really love this event. So free to the public all day long on this 16th. In the evening, then we have the wine, spirits, and beer, other local establishments, a tasting, and then we'll have heavy appetizers, and then the jazz musicians that are adjudicated during the day play, and you're able to interact with them live on stage. This raises money for our developing nations water projects. One of the big ones I was just talking to Paul about was our Malawi project that had gone on over a long, long time. The last thing we did was $100,000 part of that project, and all of the Thurston County Rotary clubs were part of that, raising the funds for that. So we raise funds for that, and then the second part is half the money that we have goes to band instruments. And those band instruments, last year, we purchased 19 band instruments that went to 5 school districts from Rochester to Nino, Tumwater, Olympia, and North Thurston here. The other thing we recently did is we partnered with a local winemaker. We have a private label wine. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon. It's $32 a bottle, and that 100% of the proceeds of the sale of our wine goes to our water projects. That then is determined through grant funding through the District Water Council, which is all Rotary clubs represented around the district. I also have tickets for sale, shirts for sale, and wine for sale. If you guys want, I'll be in the back there. And we'd appreciate your support if you could get out or promote it, or you have places to hang flyers, let me know. I'll just be back there. And we thank Gateway for their continued support.
So sorry, I have to say that you're turning wine into water rather than water into wine.
That is correct. So this nonprofit, this nonprofit actually is called Water from Wine.
Okay.
The benefactor, if you will, has 6 acres of wineland, Cabernet Sauvignon, and what they have done, they also sell other wine, that's what covers their overhead and everything, but the reason they are a nonprofit that create wine specifically for water projects is he wanted to do something good, so he took a spin on the biblical verse and turning wine into clean water through purchasing it.
I do.
So is this a gift for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not early to drink though.
No, it's not. We meet in a bar, okay? And Corey, you got to know, never take questions from Jerry Farmer, and if you do, certainly don't answer them. Okay. No club meeting. In 2 weeks, right? No club meeting on the 13th.
On the 14th.
No meeting on the 13th.
Excuse me. No, I'm in charge here. No meeting on the 13th, but on the 14th, Governor Bill is having his joint club meeting, and he's required under penalty of law to do this for every club. So, having had his job before, I will tell you, it's really embarrassing if he were to come that day and nobody were to show up. It's happened to me. So I'd ask you all really to take every effort you can and go online and you can RSVP, and they're doing box lunches there. Hey Bill, do you want to come up for a second? No. Okay. And I want to mention one more time that I'm Bill's vice president or vice governor this year, and that means if something were to happen to him, then I would have to be governor for the remainder of his term. And we were on a video call the other day, and he happened to casually mention that he had just had major back surgery. And so, from my perspective, it's all about me. I immediately called him and said, why didn't you tell me that, you were under the knife? You realize what this could have meant for me if you died. So, he's healthy, and, yeah, sir.
I was going to say that I do get about every other week an email from him saying, are you taking your next week?
Very important. Statins, blood pressure. You keep that up, Bill, okay? Alrighty, what is next? Okay, so World Polio Day every year is on October the 24th. Easy for me to remember because it's my daughter's birthday. Okay, and it's a big deal because Rotary is such a big part of the World Polio Initiative. So Rotary has been working to eradicate polio for more than 35 years. Most of you know that. And now we're down to, we reduced cases down by 99.9% globally. All right, and so billions of dollars have been donated, and we're still only endemic in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But there's still more work to be done. And every once in a while, you're going to read about this in the newspaper or online and find out that there's some other case that just kind of popped up. People are not vaccinating their kids in this country like they should be. So it's still a problem. And so there's a program that many don't know about. It's called the Polio Plus Society, and I'm a member of that. And that is where you pledge to give $100 to Polio Plus, which is part of the Rotary Foundation, until it's eradicated globally. So that's the pledge. And so I'm looking around the room here. Everybody in this room can afford to do that. And even if you're already donating to Rotary International or the foundation, you can designate that money to go to Polio Plus if you want. Okay? So think about that. It's just $100 a year. Okay, what do we got next? Sylvia.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Hi, everybody. It's always a great day at Gateway, right? Right, Mr. McGregor?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the people that came to our lasagna dinner. We had a blast. Nathan's partner gave us the best photo ever. I don't want to share that without her information, but it was lovely. So we're moving on to the next step. Gateway is sponsoring 2 families. They are from North Thurston School District, Troy, Oliver's families. One family is a family of 2, the other one is a family of 8. We have a list of what the families need. You can reach me for that, or if you just want to give me money, Amanda and I will go shopping together with expertise from Jerry Farmer's ex-wives. So,
Which is really broad because there's so many of them.
so if you want to give me money, that's great. If you want to buy a present, I get high school kids involved to wrap everything. So just give me your money. It'll be a great time. Thank you.
Sylvia did not clarify that when she says she wants to get money from you and that she's going shopping, she didn't clarify that that's for somebody else as opposed to herself. So, yeah, I just want to make sure. I think is that true? It's not for you, right?
It is not for me.
Okay, very good. All right, now I'd like to introduce the Vice President of our club, Spencer, who's going to introduce our guest speaker. Spencer Zeman.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, Gateway. So up next, our next speaker started her over 20-year career at Intercity Transit in 2004. She has worked through the organization as a van pool coordinator, youth education specialist, dial-a-lift manager, really great program. If you don't know what dial-a-lift is, most of the people in this room could probably benefit from it. Look it up later, you'll understand the joke. And operations director. Wow. In 2023, she was appointed Intercity Transit's general manager. She has a BA from St. Martin's and a Master's of Public Administration from the UW Evans School of Public Policy and Governance. She lives in Olympia with her husband and 2 children. Please welcome Emily Bergkamp.
Can we give it up for Spencer too? So Spencer and I have the good fortune to work together, and it's really awesome because if it weren't for Spencer, our facilities would not be in the condition that they are, and we have an awesome facilities crew at IT. So thank you so much.
So tall. Yeah.
Right.
He's so Spencer-y.
He is. It's a great name. I love that store, Spencer, too. I have to say that this crowd, you made it worth getting up at 7 this morning because this is really fun. It actually reminds me, Spencer, this might sound familiar, but walking through our Operators Lounge is one of the most fun places at Intercity Transit. And I would love to have all of you, if you would ever like to maybe do a change of location and maybe have a Rotary Club at Intercity Transit, we could do a tour there, too. So just putting that out there. It might be kind of fun. Thank you, Spencer, for the great introduction. I wanted to touch on some things that I already heard this morning. Number one, my oldest son has been in band since 5th grade. And even though he does have his own instrument, there have been occasional times where he's had to use some loaners at Olympia High School because his truck is being serviced. So thank you so much. And I know that that means a lot to especially kids that maybe their families can't afford to get them instruments and they end up using some at school. Because band has probably been one of the most connecting things that my oldest son has done his entire high school career. So thank you so much for all that you do. Also, I want to give a big shout out to our Lewis County Transit folks in the back there. They can wave. One thing that I've learned in my time working at Transit is that we really share information. We really like to help make each other better, and we have great systems in the state that are nationally recognized, and so it's really great when we can share information. And we currently are working with Lewis County Transit, their GM, Joe, on potential hydrogen fueling, which we'll talk about a little bit later too. Also, you never know who you're going to meet. Mr. Dusek, which I'm going to put on the spot back there, his brother drove transit for 30 years up in Pierce County, it sounded like. So to have that extended amount of time driving a bus is incredible. So truly, thank you for sharing that with me because our frontline are some of the most important people to me at Intercity Transit. And lastly, I'm looking at Sylvia because I know we have a transit connection too. And is your daughter Jaleesa? Is that right? Okay. All right. Yes. Give it up. Jaleesa is obviously Sylvia's daughter, and also we had an operator, Yogi, that's his nickname. James is his real name. But Yogi worked at Intercity Transit and is Jaleesa's dad, and so we got to see Jaleesa off and on for many, many years, and Yogi also retired after quite some time at Intercity Transit. So
35 years.
35. We had an operator retire after 42 years last year, if you can believe that. That's a really long time. So anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to a few folks in the crowd there. So let's talk about Intercity Transit. So I brought an information sheet that you can check out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about our programs because I brought this wonderful sheet, but mostly today what I'd like to talk about is how is Intercity Transit doing? You know, we just kind of popped out the side of a major pandemic. And we have a lot of great plans before the pandemic hit, and we like to update the community on what's going on with those plans. But like Spencer said, we have programs like obviously our fixed route service, We have about 22 routes that serve Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, and Yelm and their urban growth areas. Dial Lift, which is a service for people with disabilities, and we do door-to-door service via Dial Lift, and that is eligibility-based, so folks have to apply. And like Spencer said, I can help with applications if anyone in the room needs that. But we also have a Village Vans program, which provides transportation for folks who are getting back into the workforce, possibly after a long time out or an injury of some type. And we even help with daycare drop-offs along the way, and that service is free. We also have a commuter van pool. As long as someone's commute starts or stops in Thurston County and they can find at least 3 people, they can share one of our vehicles, a nice van pool van, which are the smaller vehicles you sometimes see running around town. And they pay a monthly fare, and we cover the insurance, the fuel, the maintenance, and then they provide the drivers. So just a little bit about our services. But we will launch right into it here. So here are just some stops along the way that I'll be talking about. We will review how we got to where we were before the pandemic with our increased sales tax, as well as current transit industry trends, because some things have changed during COVID that I think we're trying to be aware of as we move forward. And then also the status of our Proposition 1 commitment. So you remember in November of 2018, we went out to voters and asked for increased sales tax, and we also mentioned quite a few things that we would like to achieve with that increased funding, and we'll talk about that too. All right, here we go. So we'll rewind a little bit. We'll go the Wayback Machine to 2016. When we had identified that there was a fiscal cliff coming up for Intercity Transit in 2023. And this was a combination of factors. So we had lost some federal funding for replacing things like buses. Buses are very expensive pieces of equipment, usually just under $1 million, and now we moved into zero emissions. It's closer to $1.5 to $2 million for zero emissions buses. And we knew that if we didn't look at some type of increased funding, that we would probably need to cut service by about 40% in 2023. So we decided, instead of just going out to voters and asking for increased funding, we wanted to do some research first on what kind of public transit our community wanted. We try to make data-driven decisions at Intercity Transit, and I would love to give a shout out to my predecessor, Ann Freeman Manzanares. She was excellent at doing that. She always asked lots of questions and wanted the data. So we actually conducted a survey called the Road Trip, where we went out and asked folks, hey, we could have a smaller system, by cutting service, if that's something the community wanted. We could have a status quo system, which still meant that we would need to get some increased funding even to keep it status quo, or we could look at having a truly transformational system. So we really went out to voters and wanted to know what they, or not voters, but the community, before we went to the voters, to see what they wanted. And out of the road trip, this is the information that we got back, is that 83% of folks wanted more transit service, or what we call a transformational system, rather than having less service or status quo service. So after doing a lot of that research, and we surveyed about 3,500 people, we got 10,000 different unique comments about what kind of transit people would want. So we tried to be very thorough in this research. So this led to Proposition 1 being on the ballot in November, and we also talked about a lot of things that we would deliver, but the voter support was great. It passed at 66%. Another piece of data collection we did before even doing this as well was to do an Elway poll, and truly this indicated that folks were willing to pay that extra sales tax to support public transit. Similarly, we did some polling ahead of time with Elway, just asking folks, here's what it would cost to deliver more transit in our community. Would you be willing to support that through sales tax? And with the Elway poll, I think it was around 67%. So we really kind of followed the numbers, followed the feedback that we got from the community, and this was truly successful. And I know that there are folks in this room who helped support Proposition 1 or even worked on some work groups, so I just want to say thank you if you were a part of that, because we wouldn't be the transit system we are today without that support. So here's some of the promises that we made. When you talk about a transformational system, you're probably like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, people will use transit more if you make it more accessible to them. So if you start earlier and end later, you also have increased frequency. Our goal is to have at a minimum 30-minute frequency on all of our routes. Some of our routes we do even better than that. The 62 that runs out here on the Martin Way corridor is every 15 minutes. It's my personal favorite because you can just stand out at a bus stop and there's going to be one coming. You don't really have to track the schedule because there's always another one following the one that just left. And then extended span of service. We serve a lot of folks, even more now after the pandemic, who do not work traditional work hours. These are folks that are frontline workers themselves in whatever industry they happen to be working at. And so the earlier and later that we can start and stop for them is going to help them maintain their economic independence as well. Service to new areas, and by new areas, I should preface that by saying within our public transportation benefit area. Like I mentioned earlier, that is the cities of Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, and Yelm, and their urban growth areas. So there are parts of that area that we cannot turn a 40-foot bus around in. And I know, you'd be surprised. And so we're trying to think about how we can provide service in those areas that are probably underserved by fixed route transit. The other question I got this morning is, what maneuver do bus drivers, are they never supposed to do? Backing up. They should never, ever back up because they'll get into a pickle right away if that's the case, especially without someone who can spot them who understands that process. On-time performance. As our community grows over time, traffic volumes increase, and if we're not looking at our on-time performance of our routes, they slowly start to run more and more late, which impacts people getting to work and their doctor's appointments on time. So we actually do what's called schedule maintenance to help with our on-time performance, and that does take quite a bit of data mining and tweaks to the schedules over time. Enhanced capital facilities. By this, we're talking about bus stops and amenities at bus stops. We live in the Pacific Northwest. It rains 9 months out of the year, and so if we can get more shelters, solar lighting, benches, things like that, it really helps improve the customer experience. Bus rapid transit. You may have seen a bus running up and down the Martin Way corridor between the Martin Way Park and Ride and the Capitol Mall that says the One on it. That is our bus rapid transit pilot program. So what bus rapid transit is, it's limited stop service, and the intent is to get people across town as quickly as possible. So it makes about 11 stops on its way between the Park and Ride and the mall, whereas the 62 is stopping probably every half mile versus fewer times with bus rapid transit. So it makes getting across town easier. They also compare it to, it's the bus that looks like a light rail because it's so efficient. Night owl service. Our goal is to have some on-demand late night service. We do not have this yet. This is one of the only things we haven't made progress on yet. There are a lot of folks who go to activities downtown, let's say at the Washington Center and things like that. They can get there by bus, but when the event ends later in the evening, they can't always get home. So we're looking at doing some on-demand transit, which basically means it's kind of like Uberized transit. Folks use an app to book a ride. They let us know where they need to be picked up at, and then our goal is to provide, I think, service within a 3-mile radius of the downtown core. That was our original idea for that service. Enhanced commuter services, so again, express from Olympia, Lacey, and Pierce County, essentially. This tends to be a little bit more challenging for us right now because we have no HOV lane, really, that extends all the way down into Olympia. So it makes it difficult for us to attract riders when they're going to be sitting on the bus, stuck in traffic next to someone who's also in a car. So we continue to work on the possibility of working with WashDOT around HOV lanes, possible shoulder running as well, that would help us move through traffic quicker. And then the last one is fare collection efficiencies. This is something that folks in that community survey said, how do we pay the fare? It's always so confusing, and when we make transfers, I don't really understand, like, why does it cost extra for the express, et cetera, et cetera. So that was something that we heard loud and clear, but truly, these were all things and concepts that the community mentioned that they wanted as part of that survey process. So you'll probably be wondering, like, how did we end up at zero fare when we were talking initially about fare collection efficiencies? Well, there's a story behind every decision at Intercity Transit, and around the time we were looking at fare collection efficiencies, we needed to get new fare box infrastructure in all of our buses. We had really antiquated fare boxes. They would jam all the time. Our road supervisors were out most often unjamming fare boxes, which took them away from responsibilities elsewhere in the system. So before we looked at what type of system we wanted to replace, we needed to look at the cost. A lot of the updated fare collection systems have smart card readers and can cost anywhere between $3 to $5 million, and then about $1 million extra each year just in maintenance. The Orca card system was very costly as well, and not something that we felt like we wanted to get involved with at that point in time. So then the board said, well, how much revenue do we actually receive through the fare boxes? We worked with a consultant who basically helped us identify all of the costs associated with collecting fares, from the armored trucks, the folks that count the money, printing costs of printing bus passes, things like that. And we realized that after you take out those costs, we were receiving about 2% of our revenues through the fare box. So our board was like, so we're going to spend $3 to $5 million and also annual maintenance costs for something that we don't receive very much revenue from. For them, it did not pencil out on the back of an envelope, or actually a very thorough Excel spreadsheet as well. So what they decided to do is do a pilot of zero fare that was intended to last 5 years. We've extended it because the pandemic kind of put us off our game a little bit. but that's how we arrived at zero fare. There's a lot of benefits to it as well that you may not immediately think of. One is safety. So let's say someone gets on, they don't have exactly the right fare, or they don't have fare at all. It's a very difficult conversation to try to tell someone, I'm sorry, you can't ride the bus because you don't have a fare. Sometimes people, they're trying to get to an appointment, to work, to their counseling services, and so sometimes that would be a real pinch point for conflict, and we just don't have that anymore with zero fare. The other nice thing is that we were already protecting our operators when the pandemic started, because we had just gone zero fare in January of 2020, so it eliminated that person-to-person contact when folks were really pretty scared about what COVID would mean. Also, it has greater on-time performance because you're not stopping and waiting for folks to either tap their card or find 25 cents to make their complete fare. So it makes the service a lot more efficient. So when we talk about on-time performance, it really is a tool to help us maintain that as well. Our goal was also to increase ridership, remove that barrier of paying the fare, make it easier, kind of as easy as possible to hop on the bus. I personally ride the bus, and I love the freedom that zero fare provides even me. I live between the 94 and the 68, and I try to ride at least a few times a month. It also shows the operators that I care about what they do, and I want to understand what kind of struggles they have, so it's a benefit to me as well. But I will tell you, it's awesome to just hop on. It is so easy. And now that our frequency is getting back after the pandemic, it does make getting to work and different life duties very possible on the bus. So that's a little bit about zero fare. And if anyone has questions, just please raise your hand and I'll try to see you out there. So that was kind of what we had planned before the pandemic started, was that enhanced service really kind of becoming more transformational, which would give our community better access to transit, which would help them overall just with their own economic development and participating in life in general. But then transit obviously was greatly impacted by COVID. So we'll talk about some of the current trends in transit and how we're trying to incorporate that as we move forward. So we lost quite a bit of ridership just from folks that are working remotely. We are a company town, and that company is the state of Washington, and there are quite a few state employees that no longer ride our service because they're working from home, or they're riding a lot less than maybe they used to. There's also less morning peak travel, as well as work travel patterns vary now by time of day. When we talk about frontline workers, those folks are using transit more often now than maybe our 9-to-5 folks, so that means they have varying schedules. And then also, remote workers, those folks that we have lost, typically are higher income earners. So our ridership we've seen, they probably live on more of a limited income. So we have to be thinking about issues of equity a little bit more with this change in ridership. So these are some of the things that agencies are doing to respond to those changes. So definitely focusing on equity and service design. Right now we do equity analysis before we do any type of service change to make sure that we're not having any, or we at least understand if we are having a disparate impact on low-income populations. Also investing in weekend service. We found that a lot of folks will ride transit now just for outings on the weekend or special events. I'll talk to Tumwater Falls Fest was back in September, and we had a lot of increased ridership around special events like that, Arts Walk. We're seeing that type of ridership now. Flexible on-demand service, which we are looking at providing in the future, I mentioned with the Night Owl service. And then also just investing in branded and better service. That could look like the One as we move through out of the pilot phase. And then also updating fare policies, which we've already done, still in pilot phase through 2028 with zero fare, but also looking at some zero emissions buses, which are all things that we definitely have planned.
Emily, could you go back one slide? 3 from the bottom, it says Spokane Transit, Oklahoma City Transit.
Yes.
What
yeah.
is your point there?
So, apologies. So Spokane Transit implemented a bus rapid transit line where they made the buses look completely different than any other buses in their fleet. So it was kind of like a new service that they were promoting, and so it was branded slightly differently, and it really caught people's attention. And so people who maybe wouldn't ride traditional fixed route transit took a chance on that. And so the consultant from Nelson Nygaard that put together some of this information, he mentioned that as well. And Oklahoma City did the same thing with one of their lines, is they kind of updated it, made it more approachable for folks who maybe wouldn't ride transit, and it's been very successful. So,
you had the same thing with Dash for a while.
That's right. Yeah, our Skittle buses. So folks have been asking, are the Skittle buses coming back? Unfortunately, no, but we will have some service increase in January for the legislative session. So we're excited about that. We're not exactly sure what we're going to call it yet. It may not be Dash, it may be something else, but that is coming back. So great question, Terry. All right, so the status of Proposition 1, I'll try to move through this somewhat quickly. So this is kind of the timeline we had set forth to the community to say, hey, you wanted all these transformational enhancements, here's the timeline on how we're going to make it happen. But we are seriously behind schedule, obviously with the pandemic. We had just implemented zero fare in 2020, and then the pandemic hit in March. But we did make some good progress on our promises even before the pandemic. So we introduced extra buses on the 62, and we also adjusted the Route 62 to serve more of Northeast Lacey. So again, that accomplished service to new areas, helped us maintain on-time performance, and also added to our enhanced commuter services by connecting people with express service. In March 2019 and September through November, we also added span and frequency on many of our routes, and in November of 2019 is when we implemented the One pilot. So before the pandemic even arrived, we had made progress on most of our initiatives for Proposition 1, except for the Nile Owl service, which is still kind of hanging out there. The Nightline is back, and that is actually a partnership that we have with the Evergreen State College. So the 42 runs later into the evening, specifically on Friday, Saturday, and into the early morning Sunday, so that we can get students back and forth between downtown Olympia when they might be going to have a good time. Some folks refer to that bus by a different name, but we call it the Nightline. But anyway, that is a service that we've had for quite some time. So we did make a lot of progress, and then what we have done is we had to cut service severely during the pandemic. Part of that was because we had a lot of folks step away from driving the bus. There were special protections in place that allowed folks who felt like they would be immune compromised, or they had a family member that would be impacted if they contracted COVID, to take some leave during that time. So we actually lost quite a few drivers because they didn't feel comfortable working directly with the public anymore. So we had to cut service, I think it was by at least a third. And since then, since 2020, we've been fighting to add service back since. The biggest challenge to us adding back service was the labor shortage and the fact that we could not hire bus drivers. Number one, it was very difficult to train big classes of bus drivers, which you really need to do. Have cohorts of drivers. It's a very costly venture to help people get their commercial driver's license. We also hire people for customer service skills. They don't have to come with their commercial driver's license. We actually feel like that's the best way to go, because you can teach anyone how to drive a bus, but you can't always teach someone how to treat people and provide good customer service. So we are really happy and proud to announce that as of May of 2024, we were back to 93%, and with this most recent service change in September, we also are at about 102% of our pre-COVID service levels. Yes, give it up, Sylvia. It felt like we had to claw our way back there. So, but big shout out to our planning department for making all these changes, sometimes overnight, as well as our human resources department, because they have been really creative in how we partner with local workforce development programs like WorkSource in promoting the fact that we're hiring for operators. We do large-scale hiring events now where they can knock out all the pieces that go with applying to be a bus driver. You'd be surprised, there's a lot of things that we ask people to do. So they need to fill out an application, they take a customer service test, they take a practical fit test that shows them basically you're going to need to get down on one knee to secure mobility devices. And then also there's the interview. So sometimes all those pieces we would have to schedule out on different dates, but when you do a hiring event where you try to knock out all those pieces at once, it helps them not be waiting so long to know if they're going to have a job with us, and it helps us get drivers in the seats faster too. So big shout out to human resources. This is just a pictograph to show you kind of the cuts we had to make during the pandemic. We're very, very excited because, and I should say that when we're back at 102% service levels, that's actually service hours. The service we're providing actually looks a little bit different. Like we don't have the dash back yet. Also, our express service now only goes up to Lakewood because Pierce Transit has a lot of service from Lakewood to the Tacoma Dome. We always used to go back to the Tacoma Dome with our express service, but we were really duplicating a lot of service that Pierce Transit already had and the Sound Transit had, so it didn't make sense for us to continue to do that. But you can see that our ridership has returned almost commensurate with the service hours. So the larger number there, the colored bars, are our ridership, and that little green dotted line is our service hours. So the more service you add, the more ridership you're going to get. So 2023, we had just over 3.5 million rides. In 2024, we're on track for over 4 million rides. So we're very excited to see our ridership returning. The consultant that we worked with, who talked about different trends in transit after COVID, said that he believes a big part of why our ridership bounced back faster than maybe other systems is the fact that we were zero fare, because we just made it easier for folks to get on and go. So now you're probably wondering, well, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen in the future? So 24, 25, and 26, again, we're going to work on 30-minute standard frequency on all of our routes. So I'll use the 94 as an example. That route starts in downtown Olympia and goes out to the Walmart in Yelm and terminates there and comes back. That's the route that I ride most frequently. And it was at one point in time during the pandemic, it was running only every hour. It makes it really difficult for people to ride transit when the bus only comes every hour. So increasing that frequency and then also providing service on all of our routes at least until 11 p.m. And then here's kind of an updated timeline, and I will share this slideshow with everybody here and send a copy in case you want to kind of keep track of that. But it just gives you an idea of what our goals are over the next few years to continue with that transformational system, as well as looking at some night owl service, possibly better service or express type service to Yelm. So with that, I will end it there, and I will hand it back over to Tom in case you have any questions.
So put your hands together for Emily, that was great. So we have time for one question. Anybody have something that's on the top of mind? So Eric Rowe.
So quick question. So I have good friends of ours, and their son is blind and lives on Boston Harbor Road, and it's been a challenge to go to St. Martin's.
Yeah.
And so coordinating things back and forth to get him in that particular situation. Do they have any options? What is that like? Vanpool? How do I get him service to get him in?
Vanpool would be tricky, I think, for that situation, and it is tough. You know, like we would love to provide more service. It's not because we don't have the desire to, it's just that we have certain limitations. But if maybe we can connect later, there is some volunteer driving services through Catholic Community Services that might be able to help him. So, yeah. So, but it's tough, especially folks that live a little bit further out where we don't have transit. But there are some social service providers that can help out in those situations. So, yep.
All right. So I have a request for Intercity Transit. Emily, let's talk to Jerry when I come. Sorry. So I have a member of our club is Andrew Barkus, who owns Hometown Property Management. Andrew Barkus in the past has been a pretty big advertiser on buses. And I personally find it a little distracting when I'm driving downtown and I'm behind a bus and there's Andrew's face looking right at me. So I, for one, would like to ask you not to accept any more advertising from Andrew Barkus. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much, Emily. Put your hands together one more time. Thank you. Okay, well, with that, it's time for our Sergeant at Arms. Ladies and gentlemen, probably one of the tallest people that I know in the world, Eric Rowe.
There we go.
Thank you. So it's good to be back. I know we had a different style meeting last week, but I just got back from Ireland. Ireland. And we had a wonderful trip. It took a while to get there. But we, how many people have been to Ireland? Just one.
I was at Weir.
Two. So three. You've been to Ireland. Very, very good. Wonderful country. And we didn't go to Dublin. We were down in the southwest area of Shannon and Killarney, and close to a county called Limerick. And Limericks are very well. So I thought, oh boy.
That's right.
Between the trip to Ireland and the power of Chat GPT, we have a couple of Limericks.
So there once was a Rotarian from Eric from Nantucket.
Pretty close, yeah, from Nantucket, right. So what's interesting about this, there was a question, what's the purpose of a limerick? Well, the purpose, I mean, they're largely poems because they rhyme, and there's a sequencing to them. But what's our rule number 5?
Have fun.
To have fun. The purpose of a limerick poem is to have fun. And trust me, the people in Ireland know how to have fun. And they are passionate about their sports and music and fellowship and relationships. So I put together a couple of limericks, if you will. And I forgot that Mike was going to be here. Let's see here. Here's a limerick about Gateway Rotary. In Gateway Rotary's bright hall, they ponder the truths, one and all. With fairness in sight, they build bonds so tight and spread joy through their service call. Limerick about Gateway Rotary. All right. Then Mike's not here, but I'll save this one for him, but I'll share it with her. Once was a President Mike with a smile that everyone liked. He'd sing with delight. On the course, take flight. At WSU, grad, shining bright. ChatGPT is ridiculously popular. Now, when I walked in, I forgot Tom was going to lead the meeting today. So we cannot not have a limerick about Tom. Okay, there once was a President Tom, a Huskies fan, proud and calm, with a grandson Calvin near and Eric so dear. Their bond is a beautiful balm. So we shared, many of you don't know Calvin, our grandson, my son and Tom and Carol, Tom and Lori's daughter are married, so we have a grandson named Calvin. So there you go, a little bit of limerick for you. How about that? And it was even PG rated. I have all the R rated ones right here, and we'll share later But our next deal. So a wonderful trip to Ireland. I highly encourage you if you have a chance to go. Wonderful people. So let's go to special moments. There are special moments. Amanda's got Kitty right over here with past president Nathan, immediate past president.
So I went to Leavenworth last week, had a good time.
The prison?
No, I escaped from that one. And I met one of the best Rotarians ever, Elizabeth. She, after she retired, double retired, she spent 10 years doing water projects and installing sanitations globally, and she did that as a 74-year-old woman. Amazing person.
Right.
So, and one more, sorry.
That's not that old.
No. But she's also her and her husband built Leavenworth, modern day Leavenworth as we know it today.
The prison?
Yeah. So it's just interesting how. Yeah. All right.
That's right.
With your awesome sweater.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I celebrated my second anniversary with Danae last weekend in Astoria. If you've never been, beautiful place, highly recommend.
Danae?
Danae.
Danae.
She's an organic farmer. It's from Ancient Greek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's a person.
She's not from Ireland.
She's a person.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. Good to know.
Okay.
Let's unpack this. So, well done.
Yeah.
Other special moments. Oh.
Me, I just want to thank Sylvia for hosting an incredible social to get ready to have, I don't know how many, 10,000 people in your living room, I don't know how many in the room. About that, Lisa was adorable, and a special shout out to Renee who made the best. So good. So thank you, Sylvia, you are the best. Let's hear it.
You guys made it fun. I just invited the space, and Spencer came by and took all the leftovers.
Yes.
So, yep.
And she made us play a game, but it was actually fun.
Oh.
Oh my
Because
God.
most games in that setting are not fun.
What's your name?
Yeah, really.
Oh, it's called What If, and yes, Nita, I made you play this.
So what if is, and then I trust it's probably nothing like Never Have I Never. Not particularly.
Different game.
Different game, different time, different crowd. Oh, that time at the $5 house. So,
Are you still funny?
sure, why not?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, it's all about weather.
It's bound and ducky. It's got teeth.
Still counts. It's like paying, I'll end up mindless. You go down like, whether it's Instagram or YouTube and things like that, and you end up on these different reels. And, being a little older, I tend to carry cash.
What?
I tend to carry cash. And it was interesting when we were overseas, everything's done on a credit card, but there are some places you want to take cash. But, you talk about cash, but it says right on our currency, legal tender for all debts, public and private. And my dad was a Rotarian and big WSU guy. And how many people remember Neil Woody? Neil Woody, local CPA. Anyway, he went to the University of Washington, so he and my dad would always have a bet regarding the Apple Cup. And it was always a standard $100 bet. And my dad paid a lot of bets because WSU got the snot out of that a lot. But he would pay his debt in pennies.
Oh!
He was that guy. It's like, and they were not rolled. But he would provide the rolls. So that was, and so after a while, Neil just said, I'll give you the points, it's not worth taking the pennies. Yeah, so legal debt, public and private. Mr. Farmer. Oh yeah, you can have it. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Big hand for Eric Rowe, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody is OCD when they laminate their Rotary card, so it's okay. So I just wanted to share, I was one of those 10,000 people that contributed to the survey for Intercity Transit way back when. And my suggestion, which I think is still good today, and interestingly, not unlike the Evergreen bus or the Night Owl service, was to do an Uber-like service, smaller, but provided for people who had smoked too much, and were a little too stoned to drive. And it could be called Duber. So, talk about branding, right? You have the little Duber car going around. What? The prosecutor's shaking his head over there right now. Duber's good. Here you go. Here's my non-laminated card. That's right. So I would like to share a lyric that I just wrote.
Oh, you didn't check. He Jerry GPT'd.
There once was a Rotarian named Eric. He wanted us to do a poem trick. It was a pain, like taking a train with Eric to County Limerick. There you go.
Hey, that's on the moment.
There we go. And he did it in paper pencil.
Yeah, that's right.
I had to take a Uber to get here.
So, provided the drivers all, have to be Jeff Spicoli,
Yeah, right.
that type of deal. So, a little known fact, I actually, at one point had my Class B to drive. So, drove school bus. I was so tired of picking up school, I don't know how many times I picked up mailboxes on Boston Harbor Road in the fog. And people would put their hats on the mailbox just to mess with the driver. It's a little tough to put a hat on a mailbox when it's not there. Just take that whole thing out.
How long did you work there?
Well, I was, as short amount of time as possible. But what's interesting is if you go back, I'm a financial advisor, if you look at my licenses, we always have to list previous employment right before, and it says Olympia School District, school bus driver. And that makes for a great conversation. And builds character and all that other stuff. Try having customer service. It's not the middle schoolers, it's the freaking elementary schoolers. And they just never stop talking. It's just over and over and over. It's like being caught on that ride at Disneyland, A Small World. And you can't get out. And backing up a bus, bad. Turn here, Mr. Oh, boy. Okay. We've got extra blood pressure medicine. All right. So with that, who's got our drawing? You got the drawing.